Welcome back to Monetizing an API with Zuplo. This video, we're going to cover adding monetization to the API that we created in Zuplo in the previous video, which if you haven't seen, you can do so by clicking it just here. In that video, we created the API gateway layer for our API, which is hosted on Vercel. We got all of the endpoints imported. We set up our authentication. We made it so that only the gateway can talk to the destination API, and we added some rate limiting. So we're in a good place now with a functioning gateway, and now we're going to add monetization to it. This is the great part of this series because this is a really fun product. I've really enjoyed building stuff with it. I'm very excited to show you. So let's get into it. Okay, so we're back in our project for the changeloggle API. And this is where we're going with this. And the bit we're going to add today is actually the pieces that power all of this pricing table that you see here. So the creation of the plans, all of the metering, all the features that you can see listed here, the ability to log in, register, set up API keys, use those API keys, subscribe to plans. But what's going to be really interesting is just how quickly we can actually get to that point using the monetization features from Zuplo. So the first thing we need to do is actually get some of the base elements of our monetization set up. So if we go to services and monetization service, this is where we're going to do the majority of the work in this video. So there are a few things that we need to do first of all, and that is actually figure out, in this case, when we go to the point of monetizing an API, what are we actually charging people for? And in this case, it's going to be charging for the amount of requests that you can make, and we're also charging for access to the MCP server that we're going to add in a later video. Let's start out with setting up the base of this, and that's going to be something to meter. In this case, we're going to add a blank meter, and this meter we're going to call requests. We'll give it an event of requests, and this is going to be API requests. We'll add that meter. What we're also going to do is connect this now to the feature for requests. So we will call this requests, and this will be requests. And we're going to link this feature to this meter of requests. Now we need to add a couple of other features as well. So we've got requests as a feature that exists across all three of the plans that we're going to create. Two of the plans, the paid plans, have access to the MCP server as well. So what we'll do is we'll call this feature MCP server. We'll give it a key of MCP server. And it's not linked to any meter. There's no metering here. It's just a feature you either have access to or you don't. So we'll add that. And then one other thing that we need to put in here as well is we're going to do a monthly fee in here too. We'll call that monthly fee. Again, not linked to any meter, so we can just add that particular feature right there. We have our meter. This is what's going to do the counting in this case. So it's going to count requests to the API as they get made. And if you hit your limit, you are on the free plan, you're not going to be able to make any more. If you hit your limit when you're on a paid plan, you will be able to make more than your allocation, but you're going to pay an extra amount of money for those. So we're going to do overage pricing for this as well, which I'll set up in just a second. So now let's go and start defining the plans. Now, if you look here, what you can see is we've got a free plan, we have a starter plan and pro plan. And the difference between these is that they have different request limits and different prices. The free plan has a very low request limit. It's for evaluation, but also I want to be able to demonstrate this to you without having to go through like 1,000 requests before it starts to block them. So slightly lower than maybe you would imagine on a typical free plan. But for the sake of this, 20 a month is going to be fine. So let's create these plans now. We've got 3 to do. Start by adding a plan. We'll do free to begin with and create the draft. So here's what's happening here. We've got a plan name. It's called free. We're doing monthly billing. Doesn't matter in this case because it's free, so it just continues, but 1 month billing is fine. Free plan, we're going to say that this has low requests, no MCP server access. Okay, now we've got our phase. This is a default phase, and this is basically What happens over the course of that month? Now, there's a lot of different aspects that go into working with phases, and you can look at all of those different things inside of our documentation. You can do free trials and then have it upgrade to paid after that particular point. You can do a lot of different combinations with phases, but we'll stick with the default here for demonstration purposes. So just a single phase every single month that does exactly the same thing. So forever, indefinite, or until the subscriber cancels in this case. So we need to add features to this phase for the rate card. So the first feature that we'll add for the free plan is going to be requests. And requests is on the free pricing model. We aren't charging for this, but we do want to meter this and count the number of requests. So we're going to set this low like it's set up there. We'll make sure that this usage limit is set to 20, and that's all we need for the free plan. So we can go ahead and save it. We go back to pricing. We'll add another plan now, and we'll do this one as starter. Create the draft. Again, same billing cadence, but this time you get more requests, more quests as well, more requests, and MCP server access is included. So for this one, what we're going to do is add a monthly fee first of all, and that's going to be a flat fee of $29.99. Payment in advance every single month. That's what this says here. Once a month, pay in advance, $29.99. You get access to this plan. Then we're also going to add the number of requests. And what we're going to do here is actually go for a tiered model and use the pricing mode of graduated, which basically means that up to a certain point, you're going to pay nothing because you've already got a certain amount of requests included in your plan. But after that, if you go over it, you're going to pay a certain amount for every single one of those requests. And what this will do is it will work out as every month comes around what it is that you owe the company on top of your previous usage. So your $29.99 plus any additional cost that you incurred from usage that went higher than the limit that we set here. Our tier is going to be first to 5,000 requests is going to be 0 because you're paying $29.99 to get those. But after that, anything from 5,001 up to unlimited, we're also going to charge an extra 10 cents for every request that gets made. Now, again, we're going to use metering here. Again, the request meter that we set up, and the usage limit should match up with this last unit right here. So we are going to say 5,000 requests. Now, in order to ensure that we actually get this overage and we don't just completely stop the access at 5,000, which wouldn't be a great experience if we did, we're going to toggle on soft limit, which basically means that it's going to hit 5,000, but it isn't going to stop the access at all. It's just going to start counting at 10 cents per request after that point. Okay, so we've now got our monthly fee, we have our requests, we've got one more feature we need to add, and that is the MCP server access. Now, MCP server is going to be free. You're not paying any extra for it in this case because you're paying your monthly fee, and this is just something that's included in that. The entitlement for this, though, is going to be set to Boolean. So you either have it or you don't, right? It's true or false. So in this case, it's going to be true. You do have access to the MCP server along with this number of requests, and you're going to pay $29.99 for that. Okay, so we are good to go with the second plan. Let's create the next one. Now, because this is going to be pretty much the same and you've just seen me do that, I'm going to go create the plan and I'll be back with you in just a second. Okay, so I've added the pro plan. I'll quickly talk you through it. Not much difference in here. Paying $99.99 a month for this one, getting 50,000 requests, and then paying an overage of just 1 cent for every request after that point. Again, soft limit, so it doesn't cut off the access at 50,000. It will keep counting, and access to the MCP server as well. So back over here, we've now got our 3 plans already set up. So let's take a look quickly at the pricing table and make sure that 1, these are in the correct order and they also have the right features assigned to them. So This in the pricing table here inside of Zuplo, you can see this is what ends up on the developer portal. But looking left to right, we can see that they're not in the correct order at the moment. So let's reorder this. We want the free plan to be first, and the starter plan to be second, and pro last. So I can just drag and drop them, and that will update that, and that's how it will appear on the developer portal as well. And anytime you make a change to this, it will be shown on the developer portal too. So we're good with this. We've got the right requests, we have the right features set up in here, and there's one thing we forgot to do. Didn't put a description in here. We'll just call major requests and MCP server access, and save it. Okay, so we're good to go with our plans. Now what we need to do is take these out of draft and make them public. So we will publish these. These will be the initial plans that we go live with. Of course, if you want to change plans, add plans, do different plans, different versions of these plans, then you can just create new ones and they will go into draft, and you can swap them out. So if you want to make changes to this later on, you can absolutely do that. You just start a new draft, and when you're ready to go with it, you'll publish it, and it will take the place of any of the plans that already exist, or it will be an additional plan on top of these if that's what you want to do. There's one other element that we're going to need to put in place here before we can test this, and that is the payment provider is not set up at the moment. We need to connect Stripe in order to do this. So this is the Stripe sandbox that I'm going to be using, and in order to connect Zuplo to Stripe for the purposes of monetization, what I need is this secret key here. So SK test, that's the one that I want, and that's what's expected in here. If I go to configure this, I can put that key in and click on save, and that's going to connect the Zuplo monetization up to my Stripe account in the sandbox mode for testing purposes. Of course, going to production with this, you'll need to swap the keys out for your production key, but at any point, if you are not in production, do only use your Stripe test keys for this. Otherwise, you're going to end up spending money that you don't want to spend, and chaos will ensue. You don't want that, not in a development environment. Okay, so we have got our plans, our features and meters are set up. We have our pricing table set up, ready to go. We are connected to a payment provider. There is one other thing that we haven't done, and that is that there's no metering set up on any of our endpoints. So let's go and do that. Back in our endpoints right here, we can now go and add the monetization policy. And this is what handles everything you need in here. And this is superb because not only does this handle the metering aspect of the monetization, it also handles all of the API key authentication that's required along with that as well. So to get API key authentication and monetization onto your endpoints, you just need to use this single monetization policy. We've got metering that needs to happen across all of these different endpoints, and we set that meter to be called requests. So in here, this is the only thing that needs to get changed. If you named your meter and your feature for the request counting differently, you'll need to change it in here. But ours is called requests, so we can leave it alone. And this is going to be incrementing by 1. Every request that gets made is going to add 1 to the usage table. If you wanted to have a greater amount of increments here, you can. All right, if you wanted to do 5, then you can do, but 1 request equals 1 in this case, so we're just going to keep it to 1. If you look in the documentation, you'll find other examples about different types of metering for data transfer, for usage of tokens, all different kinds of stuff. You can meter on loads of different things, not just API requests. But in this case, that's what we're doing. We're going to do 1 request and increment by 1 each time that gets made. So that's what we're saying here. This meter called request should increment by 1 when it gets made. Now we need to actually apply this to all of the different routes. And again, we can do this en masse by going to apply policy, set it up on all of them. And what I'm going to do is save that right now. And in the previous video, there was something that I'd set up to test whether the gateway was working correctly that we do need to remove here at this point. On this create project, we set an API key inbound, but we actually don't need that now because the monetization policy is going to handle that for us. So what we want in our chain here is for monetization to be first, because it's going to do the API key authentication, it's going to do the metering. Then we can also do rate limiting, and after that we'll do the request headers. And again, if you are wondering, why is that there? What is that set request headers policy? It's a little security policy that I added in the first video, just to ensure that we can be certain that the Zuplo API gateway is the only thing that's talking to our destination API. So we've got the monetization policy set up on here now. Now, unfortunately, when you add the policies, it does stack them bottom to top, and we kind of need this one to be first. So give me just a second while I go through and do that reordering, and I'll be back with you. Okay, so monetization is set up. We've configured all the plans. We've configured the meters. We have configured the features. Now we've got the policy set up on our endpoints, and we are ready to do a test. Now, the good place to do the test at this point is going to be on the developer portal, but the developer portal doesn't know about monetization at this point. So what we're actually going to have to do is add the monetization plugin to the developer portal in order to get this working end to end. So let's add that. If we go here to the docs folder in the code tab, you can go to the Sudoku config file. Sudoku is what powers the Zuplo developer portal. First of all, we're going to import the monetization stuff. You can find all of this in the Zuplo documentation as well. You don't have to look at it directly in here or copy it from this video. If you are following along, you can just go to the documentation, grab the quick start, and everything you need is going to be in there as well. So the monetization plugin is imported. We need to add it as a plugin, and I like to do this here, down here. It actually doesn't really matter where you put this, but I like to do it here because it feels most relevant at this point. So Zuplo monetization plugin. Forgot the comma, put a comma. That's been saved. We've got the plugin imported. We have it referenced here. So now the developer portal is aware of monetization. And what this is going to do is go grab from the APIs behind the monetization service all of the information that we set up inside of the monetization service. So all of this stuff that is shown here on this pricing table, this is how that's going to actually end up inside of your developer portal. Okay, so we're already looking good, and this is the out-of-the-box experience for the developer portal. You can see that we've got the pricing table is here, looking like we want it to, and now I think we can go ahead and start making a request. So if we go to log in, what we can do is sign up for a new account. In fact, I just continue with Google in this place. I use my Zuplo account for this test, and we're now logged in. You can see that that's me. So it's registered me as a person. And I've now got additional elements in here as well. Subscriptions, management of payment details, and I can start doing things with this API. But right now, I have no access to any plan. So I'm not going to be able to do anything until I actually jump on one of these plans. So I will grab the free plan to begin with. And because it's free, there's no need to go through the checkout process with Stripe, so that gets skipped. But we will add the free plan to my account. And once I do that, I end up back in the My Subscriptions tab right here, and it tells me loads of stuff straight away. I've got the subscription that I'm on when it began. I've got the analytics of the number of requests that I've used, and also my API keys for making requests. And from here, I can also roll that key if I want to, delete keys, general key management, and also manage the subscriptions from here as well. So if I want to cancel the free plan, if I'm moving, I don't want to use this service, I can do that. I can switch plan as well. So if I want to upgrade to any of these plans, I can do that from here. Of course, once you're on a paid plan, the ability to downgrade is there as well. So let's do a test. Now we've got an API key. I'm going to copy that. And if I head over to the API reference, what I can do is I can create a project, and we'll use the interactive playground inside of the developer portal to do this because it's actually going to give us most of the stuff we need to set up pretty much straight away. So if I open this, you can see that I have the free plan key that was assigned to me is already listed here. So if I just select that, that's what get used to make the authenticated request here. And I can grab an example as well to use here, so I can just test this end to end. So let's do it. Okay, there we go. That took slightly longer, but I'm guessing it's because it needed to spin up on Vercel, so your experience may differ. But we got the response back, 201 created, and we've created our project in there, which is great. So let's go back to my account here, and we can see already that I've started to hit the limit of what I can actually do. I've used one of my 20 requests in this case. So I've used one of my 20, and if I go through and use 19 more, I'm going to get completely cut off at 20. But let's say that I'm kind of good with that. I like it. I appreciate the API and I want to subscribe. What I can now do is actually switch my plan and go through the process of actually checking the payment side. So I'm going to upgrade to starter. And this will take me over to Stripe now to put in my payment details. So again, we're using the Stripe sandbox for this. So there's a bunch of fake credit card details you can get from their documentation that you can use to simulate the payment process in here. So I'm going to do that. So if we save that. Okay, verified the payment information, and now I can go ahead and confirm the plan change. I am now going to have 5,000 requests a month and access to the MCP server, and also 10 cents after my 5,000 paid if I go over that limit. So let's confirm the plan change. Okay, there we go. My plan has been changed. So I'm now on starter, and that's happening there. I can see that my free plan that I was originally on has now expired. This is the one that I'm on. My request limit has changed to 5,000, and I'm now in a position to go and create different projects and do it as much as I want until I blast through those 5,000 limits, which is probably going to be pretty hard unless we're banging out an enormous amount of change logs, but hopefully that is the case. Jumping back into the portal, I'm just going to quickly show the monetization service right here. Now that I've actually gone through and made a subscription, and for any of your customers, you'll see the same thing in this subscribers table here. You can see all of the customers who are signed up. And in this case, we've got me, Martin, and we've got 2 subscriptions that I've had in my history so far, a free one that's currently inactive and a starter one that is now active. So that is monetization end to end, from nothing all the way through to actually paying and upgrading plans and starting to use them, applied across the board with API key management, self-serve API keys in the developer portal as well. So we're in a really good place with this right now. There is the one extra element that we haven't covered here, and that is the MCP server. We're going to add that in the next video, and we're also going to write some custom code to feature gate that so that people who are on the free plan that try to access it will not be able to, and people who are paying will absolutely be able to, because that is what they're paid for. Thanks very much for joining me. Thank you for following along. If you didn't see the first video and you want to understand how we got to the beginning of this, then feel free to go check it out. And there's going to be one more video coming up to add the MCP server. And then we're also going to do a little bit of work on the developer portal to make it look nice and shiny. So I'll see you in the next one.